and he wanted me to create an environment to normalize the conversation around grief and just to bring it out into name it, claim it, and then release it in a more ritualistic way, not to suggest for 1 second that this experience is going to release your grief, but my hope is that maybe in this little bit of a conversation, and then when we embody it, you can kind of shift a little bit some of the perceptions or attitudes that you've had around your own grief. I know for myself, actually, now, often we try to quantify grief. You know, my grief is so clear. You know, dead daddy is a pretty big grief. But my biggest grief, the secondary, well, almost my biggest grief next to my father, was when I was around 8 years old. And I have proof of this because I have this little journal that I keep, and I should actually bring it when I teach these classes because it's so adorable and heartbreaking at the same time, because I kept this little journal. And my very first heartbreak happened at 8 years old, and it was over a helium balloon. And I had gone to the mall and I had gotten this helium balloon, and I'd never seen a helium, I never had one before, and it was magic to me. And it said, Girl Scouts of America, keep America green, something like that. And I loved this balloon with everything in my soul. And I was playing with it and hanging with it, and it got caught in a sticker bush. And I remember standing there watching it deflate slowly and feeling this utter sense of helplessness, that this thing that I loved was dying and I couldn't do anything about it, and I lost my mind. And I wrote about all of this in my little tiny scrawl, and the pages are wilted, and there's a circle around it and a little arrow says, "These are my tears." Absolutely. And it's so cute. But that grief was as big and as real to me then as my own father's grief. It felt the exact same. Grief is cumulative, and it's something that if we don't deal with, we don't talk about it, it stays within our body. And, oops. Yeah, your gnats are now officially all over the place. And so I look back at that grief and realize that as a child, I didn't have any tools to process it. I didn't understand loss. I didn't understand what that meant for me, and that the experience of grief. And certainly when my father was dying, and when he died, it was a very lonely experience. It was very isolating. It was annoying when people would say to me, "I know exactly how you feel." And I thought, you can't. I don't even know how I feel. I had never experienced so many emotions simultaneously, from relief to devastation, from guilt to celebration, and all of it like right here. And I would just retreat into myself, and I kept thinking, I understand why my dad wanted me to do this, because if me, with all my abilities to communicate and the community that I have, is withdrawing in the face of grief, what else do people do, especially when they don't have the tools? And so I'm curious for you guys, what are some of the words that you've experienced within your own grief that you have felt? I named a couple. Anyone just want to care to throw it out?